In this module, we're going to focus on whether to use ser or estar depending upon what you want to say. Now, first of all, the verb to be in English. We're talking about if I conjugate it, I am, you are, he, she, it is, we are, and they are. Now, the challenge that we have is that there are two verbs for to be in Spanish, not just one, and they are ser and estar. And in terms of the most common verbs used in Spanish, these two are actually number one and number two in usage. So it's really important that we get a good handle on them. Now, if we look at some simple English phrases, we would have I am Paul, I am a man, I am happy, I am here. You can see that all the way down the line we have I am because we just have one verb for to be in English. However, if I was to translate those into Spanish, we have soy Paul, soy un hombre, estoy feliz, and estoy aquí. So it's very clear that in Spanish they have two verbs. We have soy for I am and estoy for I am. The goal of this module then is going to be to give you something solid to hold on to so that you can make good decisions about whether to use ser or estar as you're speaking Spanish. I should also mention that online there are forums full of native Spanish speakers arguing over whether you should use ser or estar for a particular sentence. So even they argue with each other over which is more correct. And a lot of it depends upon which Spanish-speaking country they come from. So it's very easy for the lines to get blurred, as you'll see, between ser and estar. But as I mentioned, I'm going to try to give you a solid framework that you can hold on to that will remove a lot of the doubt that native English speakers typically have when it comes to choosing ser or estar. The first thing I want to give you is that ser equals identity. This is something I want you to hold on to. It's something solid for you to grab onto right away. This idea that ser equals identity. Now let's look at some examples of this. I am Pablo. I am a man. I am tall. I'm a father. I'm Catholic. I'm slim. I'm a musician. I'm blind. These are all examples of identity. Now, your identity is not just made up of physical traits or your religion. It's also made up of personality traits. For example, I'm funny, I'm witty, I'm impatient, I'm sincere, I'm ambitious, I'm energetic. This is the first thing that I want to really hammer home to you, is that we would use ser to express all of these things because it's either identity with your name, what sex you are, whether you're tall or short, whether you're a father, brother, whatever, your religion, your physical appearance, what you do for a living, whether you're blind or bald, or all those things identify you. They all relate to identity. But we also have identity through our traits of personality. So you can be a funny person or an ambitious person or a sincere person. Those things also are part of your identity and how people perceive you. So with all of these kinds of things, they take ser. Now, if we contrast that with estar is about emotion. For example, I am happy, I'm excited, I'm angry, I'm worried, I'm anxious, I'm hopeful. It's more transitory, estar, so talking more about emotion. Let's try some now. I'll give you again just a simple phrase, and you need to decide if that is identity and ser or emotion, which would use estar. First off, my name is Jorge. So here is the bit where we would need to decide to go ser or estar. What would you choose? So this would be ser because it's about identity. I'm funny. This again would be ser, because it's a personality trait. Someone who is funny, it's a trait of personality. So it's identity, ser. I'm anxious this morning. Ser or estar? This would be estar because it's emotion. We're not saying we're anxious all the time, that's part of our permanent personality. We're just saying that we're anxious this morning, so it's more transitory, and it would take estar. I'm bold. This would be ser because it's identity. I'm dynamic. This is ser again. It's a trait of your personality that you are dynamic. I'm from Mexico. This would be ser, it's identity. I'm intelligent. This would be ser, again, identity. I'm annoyed. This would be estar because it's emotion, something that's transient. Now, so far, we've been talking about a person, but we can also use ser and estar to talk about inanimate objects. And this is where things get a little bit more tricky. It's going to take a while for this to sink in, but the more examples we do, you'll find that it starts to get less and less blurry. For example, we could talk about, say, a coffee table. Now, a coffee table has identity. For example, it's made of wood, say it's mahogany. It's from Indonesia. It's 3 foot tall. It's rectangle in shape, and the color is brown. These are all things that make up the identity of the coffee table. Now, obviously a coffee table doesn't have emotion like a person, but what it does have is condition. So the question that we need to ask is, what condition is it in? And estar would be used to describe these conditions. For example, the leg is chipped, the top is scratched, it's dusty, and it's old. This is the condition of the coffee table. And all of these things would take estar, and just as before, all of these things would take ser. So we have identity covered with ser, but its condition, the condition of it is covered with estar. Let's take another example and talk about a car. So the identity of this imaginary car will say, it's a sports car, it's a BMW, it is red, it is fast, it's made in Germany. These are all core characteristics that make up the identity of this sports car. But we can also talk about the condition of the car. For example, the bumper is dented, the wheels are rusty, the indicator is broken, the windshield is cracked. All of these things would be expressed using the verb estar to describe its condition, but its identity, its core characteristics, its identity is using ser. Let's do one more and talk about a window. So first of all, the identity of this imaginary window. We'll say that it's glass. The glass is bulletproof. It's 3 centimeters thick. It's from the USA, and it's expensive. So all of these things are core characteristics of the glass that make up its identity. So we would use ser. But this glass also has condition. What condition is it in? So we could say it's clean, it's dirty, it's open, it's closed, it's working, it's broken. All of these things are examples of condition that could be applied to this imaginary window. And so these things would take estar, and the identity things would take ser. It leaves us with this slide. So to sum all that up, we have ser equaling identity, and estar being used for emotion or condition. Obviously, emotion is for people, and the condition, what condition is it in, is for the inanimate objects like the coffee table, the car, or the window. Let's try some on your own now. This is going to be just an inanimate object. It's going to be a pot. So the pot is made in China. Here's where we have to decide ser or estar. So which would you choose? This is ser because its identity, where a pot is made, is not a condition, it's part of its identity. The pot is scratched, ser or estar. This would be estar because it's a condition of the pot. The pot is stainless steel, ser or estar. This would be ser because it is stainless steel, so it's a core characteristic, something intrinsic about the pot. So therefore it's part of its identity, what it's made of. We choose ser. The handle is burned. This would be estar because it's a condition. What condition is the handle in? Well, it's burned, so that would be estar. The pot is wet. Ser or estar. This would be estar. It's just a condition that we've washed the pot, it's currently wet, but well, in half an hour it's going to be dry. So it's transitory. The bottom is non-stick. This would be ser. It's about its identity. Okay, so this is just a fact, a core characteristic of the pot, that it has a non-stick bottom, so therefore we would use ser. Now let's move to a person. These are normally easier to talk about ser and estar. To separate it with a person, it tends to be easier in the beginning than to talk about inanimate objects. So first of all, she's attractive. Would you choose ser or estar? This would be ser. If you're an attractive person, it makes up part of your identity. More often than not, more days than not, you are looking good if you are just a genuinely attractive person. So she's attractive is not something transitory, right? It's not here today, gone tomorrow. So for that reason, it would take the more permanence of ser. She's excited. This would be estar because it's an emotion. She's slim. This is ser because it's part of her identity. She's from Brazil. This is ser, her identity. She's ambitious. This is ser because being ambitious is a trait of her personality. So it makes up her identity, how she's perceived as a person. She's social. This is ser again because it's part of her identity. Lastly, she's in love. This would be estar because it's an emotion.